Right now, a nuclear-armed nation with some of the most advanced surveillance technology on the planet is reportedly handing Iran the precise locations of American warships and aircraft so they can be struck with drones and ballistic missiles. That would be alarming enough on its own, but when the President of the United States was confronted with this information directly, his response was not a denial and it was not a plan. He called the question stupid and changed the subject. What is happening behind the scenes right now should concern every single American, and today we are going to walk through all of it. According to a detailed report from the Washington Post, 3 U.S. officials familiar with classified intelligence have confirmed that Russia has been providing Iran with targeting information since this conflict escalated. The data reportedly includes the locations of American military assets across the Middle East, specifically warships and aircraft, though officials indicated the scope may extend beyond that. These officials spoke anonymously due to the extreme sensitivity of the matter. When the Washington Post reached Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson, he declined to offer any comment. Now, here is why this matters beyond the obvious. Intelligence analysts describe Russia's surveillance capabilities as among the most precise and technically advanced in the world. If these reports hold up, Iran is not guessing where American forces are. It is receiving exact positioning data from a global military power. This would mark the first confirmed instance of another major U.S. adversary directly participating, even indirectly, in hostilities against American forces during this conflict. That is a historic and deeply dangerous development, and it deserved a serious presidential response. Instead, something very different happened. Hit subscribe right now if you want the truth without the corporate filter. We cover what they won't every single day. Turn on notifications so you never miss when we expose the next major story. Do it now. Earlier today, the president held a press conference. Given that American troops are operating in an active war zone and facing an enemy now reportedly backed by Russian intelligence, you might assume the press conference was about the war. It was not. The event was entirely focused on college athletes and whether they should receive compensation for their name, image, and likeness. When a reporter attempted to ask about the Russia intelligence reports, the president shut it down immediately. He told the reporter he had lost respect for him and called it a stupid question, then insisted the room stay on topic, meaning college sports. He even expressed frustration when other journalists tried to ask about unrelated policy matters like cabinet changes. At no point during the event did he address the military conflict, the intelligence about Russia, or the status of American service members deployed in the region. As of this recording, there has still been no formal address to the American people about this rapidly expanding war. The president has not sat down, looked into a camera, and explained to the country what is happening, why troops are in harm's way, or what the end game looks like. That silence is becoming louder by the day. But the story gets harder to explain from here. The very same week that credible reports emerged about Russia allegedly helping Iran target American forces, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced the United States is easing sanctions on Russian oil. He confirmed that India has been given permission to resume purchasing Russian crude, reversing a previous arrangement where India had agreed to stop buying sanctioned Russian energy and substitute it with American oil. Bessent went even further, publicly stating that the administration is considering unsanctioning additional Russian oil currently sitting in tankers around the world. He framed this as a strategy to stabilize global energy markets during the conflict. But consider the optics and the substance of what is happening here. American intelligence officials are telling reporters that Russia is actively assisting an enemy that is firing missiles at U.S. assets. And simultaneously, the U.S. government is opening new revenue streams for Russia by lifting restrictions on its most valuable export. Veterans and military analysts responded with alarm. The fundamental question several of them raised is simple. If Russia is helping the enemy target American troops, why is the United States making it easier for Russia to make money? No one in the administration has provided a satisfactory answer. The official White House position on the intelligence reports may be the most jaw-dropping element of this entire story. When the press secretary was asked directly about the confirmed reports of Russian intelligence sharing with Iran, she said, and these are her words, whether or not this happened, it frankly does not really matter. She then pivoted to prepared talking points about how the military is overwhelming Iran. A Republican congressman reinforced this posture, essentially telling the public to disregard the reports entirely. Let that sit for a moment. The administration's on their stance is that it is irrelevant whether a foreign power is providing an enemy nation with the tools to locate and strike American military personnel. This is not a misquote or a taken out of context clip. This was stated clearly during an official press briefing. For an administration that has built its brand on projecting strength and prioritizing American interests, dismissing a direct threat to American troops as something that doesn't really matter creates a contradiction so severe that no amount of messaging can paper over it. And yet, the follow-up pressure from the press room was minimal. On the ground, the military situation is intensifying at a pace that suggests this conflict is far from winding down. Besant appeared on television and announced openly that the upcoming night would feature the largest bombing campaign of the conflict so far, targeting Iranian missile launchers and the factories that produce them. Footage has already surfaced showing massive airstrikes hitting Mebad International Airport in Tehran, Iran's capital city. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical shipping lanes in the world, remains effectively closed. Oil prices are surging. Gas prices have jumped sharply in a very short window. And according to NBC News, the president has privately expressed serious interest in deploying a limited number of U.S. ground troops inside Iran for targeted strategic missions. Officials stress that no formal orders have been given, but the mere fact that this is under active discussion at the highest level represents a significant potential escalation. Meanwhile, Iran's parliament speaker issued a defiant public statement declaring that Iran's future will be determined by its own people, using pointed and inflammatory language directed at the American administration. There are also deeply disturbing unanswered questions about civilian casualties. Reports indicate that a U.S. military strike hit an elementary school in Mashhad, Iran, with reported casualties exceeding 150 people, the vast majority of them children. When the press secretary was asked whether the president is satisfied with the pace of the investigation into this incident, she offered no update whatsoever. She referred the question to the Pentagon and moved on. Days have passed with no additional information, no accountability framework, and no public acknowledgement of urgency from the White House. Separately, when pressed on what the president means by demanding Iran's unconditional surrender, the press secretary offered a definition that raised eyebrows across the analytical community. She stated that unconditional surrender means whenever the president determines Iran no longer poses a threat, then Iran will essentially be in that state of surrender, whether they declare it themselves or not. Multiple analysts have noted that this language effectively allows the administration to declare victory at any moment of its choosing, regardless of conditions on the ground. It is framing that appears designed more for domestic political purposes than for any coherent military or diplomatic strategy. So let us step back and look at the full picture as it stands right now. American forces are engaged in an expanding conflict against Iran. A credible intelligence report says Russia is helping Iran locate and target those same American forces. The administration's response has been to call the question stupid, say it does not matter, ease financial restrictions on Russia, and announce even bigger bombing campaigns. Gas prices are rising. A critical global shipping route is disrupted. Ground troops are being discussed privately. An investigation into the deaths of children remains stalled with no updates. And the president has still not formally addressed the nation about any of it. This is not a conflict that appears to be moving toward resolution. Every indicator suggests it is accelerating, and the gap between the official narrative and what is actually unfolding grows wider each day. The people who deserve answers most, American service members and their families, are getting the least. That should matter to everyone, regardless of political affiliation. Tell me what you think in the comments below. If this is your first time here at Daily News Report, hit subscribe so you do not miss what comes next, because this story is far from